The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than any building on Earth. Thousands of alien creatures sat in floating chairs that circled a central platform. Some had scales. Some had tentacles. Some looked like living crystals. They had come from 100 different worlds to decide one simple question. Should humans be allowed to compete in the Galactic Games? Grand Arbiter Thale floated to the center platform. He was old, even by alien standards. His body looked like a giant slug covered in golden robes. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire hall. The species known as humans has been discovered on a small planet called Earth, Thale said. They have achieved basic space travel. According to our laws, they must now prove their worth. A creature with 4 arms stood up. His name was Keth Voran, and he was the champion of the Galactic Games. He had won 7 times. No one had ever won more. I have seen the reports on humans, Keth said. They have no claws, no armor, no venom. They cannot even survive in cold water for long. Why should we waste time on such a weak species? Many aliens in the hall laughed, but one voice spoke against them. Han Minjae, the human ambassador, walked to the platform. He was a small man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He wore a simple black suit among all the alien robes and armor. "You call us weak," Minjae said calmly, "but you also call our planet a death world. You say the gravity is too strong. The weather is too violent. The predators are too dangerous. So which is it? Are we weak? Or did we survive something that would kill most of you?" The hall went quiet. Thale made a sound like grinding stones. It was his way of laughing. "Pretty words, human. But words do not win the games. Send us a champion, if you dare. We will see what your species is truly made of." Minjae bowed. "We will send someone. And when we do, you will remember this day." Back on Earth, the news spread fast. Every country wanted to send their best fighter. Soldiers, athletes, scientists, everyone had an opinion on who should represent humanity. But Yoon Jisoo had already made her choice. She drove her car up a mountain road in South Korea. Path was rough and covered in snow. Most people would have turned back, but Jisoo kept going. She had known Park Do-hyun since they were children. She knew he would not come down the mountain for anyone else. She found him chopping wood outside a small cabin. He was 30 years old, but he looked older. His hands were rough. His face was calm. He had been a famous fighter once, but that was years ago. Now he just wanted to be left alone. "No," Do-hyun said before she could speak. Jisoo got out of the car. "You do not even know what I am going to ask. You want me to fight aliens." He kept chopping wood. "I saw the news. I am not interested. They think we are animals, Do-hyun. Pets. If we lose this, humanity will never be free. We will be protected like endangered birds in a cage. Then send someone else. There is no one else like you." Jisoo walked closer. "I have watched every fighter on Earth. They are strong. They are fast. But you are different. You do not just fight to win. You fight to survive. That is what we need." Do-hyun stopped chopping. He looked at her for a long moment. "I left that life behind," he said quietly. "I hurt people, Jisoo. I was good at it. Too good. That is not something to be proud of. I am not asking you to be proud. I am asking you to save us." The wind blew cold around them. Somewhere in the forest, a bird called out. Do-hyun closed his eyes. "What happens if I lose?" he asked. Then we tried. That is more than most species can say. He was quiet for a long time. Then he put down his axe. "When do we leave?" 3 days later, Do-hyun stood in a small spacecraft flying through space. The alien pilot barely looked at him. To the pilot, humans were just another primitive species that would fail and be forgotten. Do-hyun did not mind. He sat quietly and watched the stars pass by. He had never seen anything so beautiful. When they arrived at the game station, it was like nothing he had ever imagined. The station was the size of a small moon. Ships from hundreds of worlds flew around it like bees around a hive. Lights of every color flashed in the darkness of space. As Do-hyun walked through the docking bay, he passed two alien competitors. They were talking in a language his translator could understand. "Did you see? They actually sent a human," one said. "Waste of time," the other replied. "It will not survive the first trial. Their species does not even have natural weapons." They both laughed. Do-hyun kept walking. He did not look at them. He did not react at all. But inside, something cold and patient woke up. It was the same feeling he had before every fight. The feeling that told him exactly what he needed to do. Survive, adapt, win. He had done it his whole life. The aliens just did not know it yet. 200 competitors stood on metal platforms floating in space. Below them was a frozen moon. The surface was white and gray, covered in ice and sharp rocks. Nothing about it looked welcoming. Grand Arbiter Thal's voice came through every speaker. "Welcome to the first trial. You will be dropped onto this moon with nothing but basic clothing. You must survive for 10 rotations. Those who live will continue. Those who die will be forgotten. Begin." The platforms vanished. Do-hyun fell through thin air. The cold hit him immediately. Wind cut through his simple clothes like knives. He could see other competitors falling around him, some spreading wings, some using natural abilities to slow their fall. He had nothing like that. He just fell at the last moment. He twisted his body and rolled when he hit the ground. The snow was deep enough to soften the landing. He lay there for a moment, breathing hard, checking for broken bones. Nothing. He was alive. Around him, competitors were already running in different directions. Some formed groups with their own species. Others attacked weaker competitors right away. The rules allowed killing. Many aliens saw this as the fastest way to reduce competition. Do-hyun did not run. He did not attack anyone. He simply looked around, studying the land. There were mountains to the north, a frozen lake to the east, some kind of forest with black trees to the south. He walked toward the forest. The first night was the hardest. The temperature dropped so low that even the air seemed to freeze. Most competitors had natural protection. Thick fur, heat-generating organs, tough scales. Do-hyun had none of these, but he had something else. Knowledge. He found a spot between two large rocks that blocked the wind. He gathered dry branches from the black trees. Then he did something that made the watching aliens gasp in confusion. He made fire, using nothing but a stick and a flat piece of wood. He created friction. He worked for almost an hour, his hands bleeding from the effort. But finally, a small flame appeared. He fed it carefully until it grew into a proper fire in the observation deck far above. Jisoo watched the screens with Ambassador Min-jae. Alien representatives surrounded them, all staring at the human on the screen. "What is he doing?" one alien asked. "He is creating heat from dead plants? It is called fire," Min-jae said calmly. "Humans learned to make it a very long time ago." But that means the alien could not finish the sentence. "Yes," Jisoo said with a small smile. "It means he can survive anywhere." On the moon below, Do-hyun was not done. He built a small shelter using branches and leaves. He set traps using vines and sharp sticks. By morning, he had caught two small creatures that looked like rabbits with 6 legs. He cooked them over his fire and ate. On the third night, everything changed. A pack of predators came down from the mountains. They were large, fast, and hungry. They attacked the main camp where 30 competitors had gathered for safety. Do-yoon heard the screams from far away. He could have stayed hidden. Many competitors did exactly that. But something made him move toward the sound instead. When he arrived, he saw chaos. Competitors were running everywhere. The predators were killing them easily. These creatures had evolved on this moon. They were perfect hunters. Do-yoon watched from the shadows. He counted the predators, 7. He watched how they moved, how they attacked. He noticed that the largest one, the alpha, always struck first. The others followed its lead. He picked up a long branch and sharpened the end with a rock. Then he stepped out of the shadows. The alpha saw him immediately. It charged. Do-yoon did not run. He waited. At the last moment, he stepped to the side and drove his spear into the creature's neck. The alpha fell, thrashing in the snow. It died quickly. The other predators stopped. They looked at their dead leader, then at the small human holding a bloody stick. One by one, they turned and ran back to the mountains. The surviving competitors stared at Do-yoon like he was a ghost. He did not explain. He did not ask for thanks. He simply walked back to his camp and slept. But someone followed him. A crystalline alien named Ilix crawled through the snow, leaving a trail of blue blood behind her. She had been wounded in the attack. Her light was fading. Do-yoon found her outside his shelter in the morning. The logical thing was to let her die. She was competition. The rules allowed him to kill her himself. Instead, he carried her inside, cleaned her wounds, and shared his food. Why? Ilix asked weakly. This makes no sense. I am your enemy. Do-yoon shrugged. You are hurt. I can help. That is enough reason. Ilix did not understand. Her species was logical. They did not waste resources on enemies. But she was too weak to argue. She simply lay there and let the strange human save her life. On the 10th day, a horn sounded across the moon. The survival trial was over. Of the 200 competitors who started, only 64 remained. Do-yoon walked out of the forest carrying Ilix on his back. She was still weak, but alive. Kethvaram watched from the winner's platform. He had survived easily with his 4 arms and natural strength. But for the first time, he was not looking at himself as the most interesting competitor. He was looking at the human. He made fire. Someone whispered nearby. He built tools. He killed an alpha predator with a sharpened stick. Keth said nothing, but his eyes never left Do-yoon as the human set Ilix down gently and looked up at the stars. The next trial would be combat. Keth was not worried about winning. He was worried about what else this human might do. The combat arena was a perfect circle of white stone. Floating cameras surrounded it, sending images to billions of viewers across the galaxy. This was what most aliens came to see. Not survival, not puzzles, fighting. 64 competitors remained. They would fight one-on-one until only 8 were left. The battles were not meant to be deadly, but serious injuries happened often. Some competitors never walked again. Do-yoon stood at the edge of the arena, waiting for his first match. The alien across from him was a Threllic, an insect-like creature covered in hard black armor. It had 6 legs, 2 massive claws, and eyes that showed no emotion. The human will lose in seconds, someone in the crowd said. Threllics are living tanks. Nothing can break their armor. The horn sounded. The match began. The Threllic charged immediately. Its claws snapped at the air, fast enough to cut metal. Most competitors would try to block or counter. Do-yoon did neither. He simply moved. For the first 2 minutes, he did nothing but dodge. He ran in circles. He jumped over attacks. He rolled under claws. He never tried to hit back. The crowd grew confused. Was the human afraid? Was he too weak to fight? Jisoo knew better. She watched from the observation deck with Ambassador Minjae, her eyes never leaving the screen. "He is learning," she said quietly. "Learning what?" Minjae asked. "Everything." Down in the arena, Do-hyun was counting. He counted how many steps the Threllic took before each attack. He counted how long it took for the claws to reset after swinging. He watched for any small movement that came before a strike, and then he saw it. Every time the Threllic raised its right claw, there was a tiny gap in the armor under its arm. Just for a moment. Just wide enough. Do-hyun stopped running. The Threllic raised its claw for a killing blow. The human moved faster than anyone expected. He dove under the arm, drove his elbow into that tiny gap, and twisted. Something cracked inside the alien's body. The Threllic screamed and fell. The arena went silent. Do-hyun stood over his fallen opponent, breathing hard but calm. He had not killed the Threllic. He had simply broken something important inside it. The match was over. In the crowd, aliens began to whisper. How did he know about that weakness? He could not have known. He figured it out. During the fight. That is not possible. But it was possible. And Do-hyun did it again and again. His second opponent was a creature made entirely of liquid metal. It could change shape, grow weapons from its body, and reform after any attack. Most fighters could not even touch it. Do-hyun watched it for 30 seconds. Then he grabbed a handful of sand from the arena floor and threw it. The sand stuck to the liquid metal, making it slower and heavier. Within minutes, the creature could barely move. His third opponent was a telepath who could read minds and predict attacks. Do-hyun won by not thinking at all. He let his body move on instinct, without any plan for the telepath to read. After each match, more complaints arrived at the Arbiter's office. The human is cheating somehow. He learns too fast. It must be some kind of technology. This is unnatural. He should be disqualified. Grand Arbiter Thale reviewed each complaint carefully. But there was no cheating. Do-hyun was simply doing what humans had always done. He was adapting. The semifinal match was different. Ilix, the crystalline alien Do-hyun had saved, was supposed to fight him. She had recovered fully and won her own matches using powerful psionic abilities. She could crush minds with a thought. But when they stood across from each other in the arena, Ilix did something unexpected. She raised her hand and spoke clearly into the silence. "I forfeit." The crowd gasped. Forfeiting was rare. It was seen as shameful for most species. Why? The announcer demanded. Ilix looked at Do-hyun with her strange crystal eyes. "I owe him a debt. He saved my life when he had no reason to. I will not fight someone who showed me mercy." She walked out of the arena without looking back. Do-hyun moved to the finals, his last opponent before the final. Trial was a Garathi. These creatures felt no pain. They could fight with broken bones, torn muscles, and missing limbs. They never stopped until their body completely failed. The match lasted almost an hour. Do-hyun tried everything. He broke the Garathi's arm. It kept fighting. He cracked its ribs. It kept fighting. He opened cuts all over its body. It kept fighting. Finally, Do-hyun changed his approach. He stopped trying to hurt it. Instead, he attacked its legs. Not to cause pain, but to destroy its balance. Again and again, he kicked and struck at the same spots. The Garathi could not feel pain, but it could not ignore physics. Eventually, its legs simply stopped working. It fell and could not get up. Do-hyun won. That night, Kethvoran found Do-hyun sitting alone outside the arena. The human was staring at the stars, his hands wrapped in bandages. "You fight like nothing I've ever seen," Keth said. Do-hyun looked up at the massive four-armed warrior. "Is that a compliment?" "It is an observation. You fight like prey that learn to bite back." Do-hyun smiled slightly. "On my world, prey that does not bite back goes extinct." Keth was silent for a moment. Then he spoke again. The final trial is the labyrinth. The Arbiter has announced special rules. He is afraid of you. Should I be worried? Yes, Keth said honestly. He will do anything to stop you from winning. Anything. He walked away, leaving Do-yoon alone with the stars. The next morning, the announcement came. The final trial would have new rules. Team-based competition. Random partners. And for Do-yoon, the worst possible team the Arbiter could create. The rules had been changed. But Do-yoon had spent his whole life dealing with unfair rules. This was nothing new. The labyrinth was enormous. It covered an entire artificial moon, filled with twisting corridors, deadly traps, and hidden challenges. No one knew exactly what waited inside. The only rule was simple. Get to the center first. But the Arbiter had changed everything for this final trial. The labyrinth will be a team competition, Thale announced. His slug-like body floated above the crowd. Each team will have 4 members. The teams have been randomly selected. Do-hyun looked at his assigned teammates. His heart sank. First was a Sketh named Torox, a lizard-like creature covered in gray scales. The Sketh were known for being paranoid and distrustful. They believed everyone was trying to kill them. Even their allies. Second was a young Relian named Korath. He was the same species as Keth Varan, with 4 powerful arms and red skin. But unlike Keth, Korath was young and arrogant. He clearly did not want to be on a team with a human. Third was Ilix, the crystalline alien who had forfeited her match against Do-hyun. At least she was friendly. The Arbiter had done this on purpose. 3 species that hated each other, led by a human they all considered weak. It was designed to fail. Keth's team was the opposite. 4 Relian warriors, all experienced, all loyal to their champion. They stood together like a wall of muscle and confidence. This is impossible, Torax hissed. The lizard cannot work with these fools. We will die. Agreed, Korath said coldly. I refuse to follow a human. Ilix said nothing. She simply watched Do-hyun, waiting to see what he would do. Do-hyun looked at each of them calmly. I am not asking you to follow me. I am not your leader. Then what are you? Korath demanded. Your translator. Do-hyun smiled slightly. You all have strengths. Torax sees patterns that others miss. Korath has strength that could break walls. Ilix has psionic powers that can solve problems none of us understand. I am just here to help you talk to each other. The horn sounded. The labyrinth opened. They entered together, but barely. Torax kept his distance, watching for betrayal. Korath walked ahead like he was alone. Only Ilix stayed close to Do-hyun. The first challenge was a logic puzzle. A massive door blocked their path, covered in symbols that shifted and changed. Each symbol represented a different concept. They had to arrange them in the correct order. Move aside, Korath growled. Strength will break this door. He punched it. Nothing happened. He punched it again. The door did not even scratch. It needs thinking, not hitting, Torax said with disgust. Let the Sketh work. He studied the symbols for several minutes. There is a pattern, but it is incomplete. I see 70% of the answer, but the rest makes no sense to me. Do-hyun turned to Ilix. Can you read anything from the door? Any hidden meaning? Ilix placed her crystalline hand on the surface. Her body glowed softly. There are psionic locks, emotions, fear, hope, determination. They must be felt in the right order. So we need Torax's pattern plus Ilix's emotions, Do-hyun said. But what about the physical part? He looked at Korath. The young Relian was standing back, arms crossed. The final symbols need to be pressed at the same time, Do-hyun said. 4 of them, in 4 different corners. too far apart for any of us alone. Korath understood. His forearms could reach all four corners at once. For a moment, pride battled with reason on his face. Then he stepped forward. "Tell me when," he said quietly. They worked together. Torox called out the pattern. Ilix felt the emotions. Korath pressed the symbols. Do-Hyun coordinated the timing. The door opened. They moved faster after that. Each challenge required different skills. Torox found hidden paths. Ilix sensed danger before it arrived. Korath broke through obstacles. And Do-Hyun kept them talking, kept them working as a team. But in the deeper sections of the labyrinth, Korath disappeared. Do-Hyun found him in a side tunnel, speaking into a small communication device. The young Relian's face was troubled. "You are supposed to sabotage us," Do-Hyun said. It was not a question. Korath spun around, ready to fight. Then he stopped. "How did you know?" Keth would not leave anything to chance. "You are his backup plan. If his team cannot win fairly, you make sure we lose." Korath's hand shook. "He is my commander, my hero. I have followed him my whole life, and yet you hesitated." Do-Hyun stepped closer. "You could have destroyed us hours ago." "You did not." "Why?" The young Relian looked away. "I do not know. I think you do." Do-Hyun's voice was gentle. "You want to win because you are the best, not because someone told you to cheat. Those are two very different things." Korath was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "If I betray Keth, I betray everything I believed in. Or maybe you find something better to believe in." Do-Hyun held out his hand. "Your choice." Korath stared at the hand. Then, slowly, he took it. They rejoined the others and pushed deeper into the labyrinth. They were close to the center now. They could see the exit ahead, glowing with golden light. But Keth's team was there too. Both groups arrived at the same chamber at the same moment. And then everything went wrong. The ground shook. A massive door opened in the floor. Something climbed out of the darkness below. Something huge and wrong. It was a void maw. A creature so dangerous that it had been banned from the game centuries ago. It was all teeth and shadows, a living nightmare that existed only to kill. "This is not part of the trial," Ilix whispered in horror. In the observation deck, Jisoo screamed at the screens. Ambassador Minjae was already sending emergency messages, but the Arbiter had blocked all communications. Thale watched calmly from his private chamber. If the human died here, it would look like an accident. A tragic malfunction. No one could prove anything. In the labyrinth, Keth's team ran for the exit. They reached it easily. The victory was theirs, but Keth stopped at the threshold. He turned and looked back at Do-Hyun's team, trapped with the void maw. His warriors called for him to come. The rules said they had won. Everything he had worked for was right there. But the rules also said this creature should not exist. Someone had cheated. And Keth Voren had never won a cheated victory in his life. He turned away from the exit and walked back toward the monster. "Commander!" His warriors shouted. "What are you doing?" "Something I should have done from the beginning," Keth said. He stood beside Do-Hyun, forearms raised for battle. "Well, human," he said, "it seems we fight together after all." Do-Hyun looked at the impossible creature before them. 7 fighters against a nightmare. The odds were terrible, but odds had never stopped him before. "Then let us give them something to remember," he said. And together, they charged. The void maw was everything the legend said. It moved like smoke and struck like lightning. Its body was made of darkness itself, and its teeth could cut through any armor. 7 fighters faced it. 7 fighters who should have been enemies. Keth attacked first. His forearms moved in perfect rhythm, striking at the creature from multiple angles. But the void maw simply flowed around his attacks like water, Ilix tried her psionic powers. She pushed her mind against the creature, trying to confuse it or slow it down. But the Voidmaw had no mind to attack. It was pure instinct, pure hunger. Torax found weak points in its movements and called them out to the others. Korath used his strength to throw debris, trying to trap the creature. Nothing worked for more than a few seconds. The Voidmaw caught one of Keth's warriors with a sweeping claw. The Relian flew across the chamber and did not get up. "We cannot win this way," Ilix gasped. Her crystal body was cracking from the effort of using her powers. "It is too strong," Do-Hyun was thinking. He watched the Voidmaw move, just like he had watched every opponent before. But this was different. This creature had no weaknesses he could see. Then he realized something. The Voidmaw was not just hunting them. It was being controlled. Small devices floated near the ceiling, sending signals that guided the creature. Someone was directing it. The Arbiter. Do-Hyun looked up at the floating cameras that broadcast everything to the galaxy. Billions of beings were watching right now. They saw the Voidmaw. They saw the unfair fight. But they did not know the truth. He made a decision. "Keep it busy," he told the others. Then he ran, not toward the creature, but toward the center of the chamber where the cameras could see him clearly. "Human!" Keth shouted. "What are you doing?" Do-Hyun stopped and faced the cameras. The Voidmaw turned toward him, ready to strike. But Do-Hyun did not run. He simply stood there and spoke. "You are watching this," he said calmly. "Billions of you, across 1,000 worlds. You came to see a competition, to see who was strongest, who was fastest, who deserved to win." The Voidmaw moved closer. Do-Hyun did not look at it. But this is not a competition. This is murder. The creature behind me was banned from these games centuries ago. The Arbiter released it to kill us because he was afraid. Afraid of what? A human. One small human from a primitive world. In his private chamber, Theo frantically tried to cut the broadcast. But something was wrong. The signal would not stop. In the observation deck, Jisoo smiled. She had spent the entire trial working with Ambassador Minjae, hacking into the station systems. The broadcast was now beyond anyone's control. Do-Hyun continued speaking as the Voidmaw drew closer. "The question now is not who wins. The question is whether your rules mean anything. Does the Galactic Council stand for fairness? Or does it stand for powerful people who break their own laws when it suits them?" He pointed up at the Arbiter's observation box. He released this creature. He broke his own rules. The question is simple. Do rules protect everyone? Or only the ones who make them? Across the galaxy, people began to react. Messages flooded the Council's communication channels. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Species that had never agreed on anything united in anger at what they saw. The Arbiter's control was slipping down in the labyrinth. The Voidmaw finally attacked. Do-Hyun dove aside, barely avoiding the killing blow. He rolled across the ground and came up with a broken piece of metal in his hand. It was a small weapon against such a monster. But it was all he had. "Everyone together," Keth commanded. The remaining fighters formed a circle around the Voidmaw. "We hit it at once. All sides." "That will not work," Torax said. "We have tried. Then we try harder." Keth looked at Do-Hyun. "Human, you see patterns. Find us a way." Do-Hyun watched the creature. It was strong, fast, and deadly. But it was still an animal. And animals had instincts. "Its back," he said suddenly. "When it attacks forward, its back is exposed for exactly 2 seconds. We need someone to keep its attention in front while others strike from behind." "Who keeps its attention?" Ilix asked. Do-Hyun gripped his metal shard. "I will. That is suicide," Korath said. "Maybe." Do-Hyun smiled slightly. But my species has a saying. Sometimes you have to be stupid to be brave. He ran straight at the Voidmaw. The creature focused on him immediately. Here was the small human who had spoken such defiant words. Here was the prey that dared to challenge Dot. It lunged. Do-Hyun did not dodge completely. He could not. The creature was too fast. A claw caught his side, opening a deep wound. Blood sprayed across the floor, but Do-Hyun did not stop. He slid under the creature's body, dragging his metal shard along its underside. Dot. At the same moment, Keth struck from behind with all four arms. Ilix focused every last bit of her psionic power into one point. Korath and Thorax attacked together, hitting the same spot again and again. The Voidmaw screamed. It was not a normal sound. It was the sound of something that had never felt pain before, finally understanding what it meant. The creature collapsed. It tried to rise, but its body was failing. Do-Hyun stood over it, bloody and exhausted. Still holding his metal shard, he drove it into the creature's head. The Voidmaw went still. Silence filled the chamber. Then, slowly, the other fighters began to lower their weapons. It was over. In the observation deck, Jisoo collapsed with relief. Ambassador Minjae was already receiving messages from council members demanding Fail's arrest. In his private chamber, the Arbiter tried to escape. He did not get far. Security forces, responding to the galaxy-wide outcry, found him within minutes. Hours later, Do-Hyun sat in a medical bay while alien doctors treated his wounds. Keth sat beside him, his own injuries being bandaged. "They are offering you the championship," Keth said. "By default. Thale has been removed. The council wants to give you anything you want." Do-Hyun shook his head. "I did not come here to win a trophy. Then why did you come?" Do-Hyun thought for a moment. "So the next human would not have to prove we deserve to exist. So we could stand beside you, not below you." Keth was quiet. Then he smiled, a rare expression for his species. "You have done more than that, human. You have changed how we see strength. It is not about claws or armor. It is about refusing to give up, even when everything says you should." 1 year later, the Galactic Games returned. New rules were in place. Fairer rules. A human sat on the rules committee now. Her name was Yoon Jisoo. On Earth, in his mountain cabin, Do-Hyun was chopping wood when a car drove up the rough road. A young woman stepped out. Her name was Choi Yuna, and she had been selected as Earth's next competitor. "They say you are the one who changed everything," Yuna said nervously. "I need your help. I need you to train me." Do-Hyun looked at her for a long moment. She was young, scared, and completely unprepared for what waited among the stars, just like he had been. He sighed, put down his axe, and smiled. "All right," he said. "Let us start with fire." The next chapter of humanity's story was just beginning.